Hi, my name is Damian Journey, Global Chief Growth Officer at 72 and Sunny, and I'm coming to you live from Sport Beach, hosted by Stagwell, here in the south of France in Cannes on the Croisette, where we're going to be celebrating the intersection of sport, culture, fandom, and fun. I am so excited to be sitting here with my friend Johanna Mayer Jones, Chief Advertising Officer at the United States of America, at the Washington Post.
Yeah, to be clear, I am not anything to do with advertising with the United States of America.
Yeah, if you can tell, she's clearly from the United States of America with that beautiful accent.
This is going to go downhill very quickly. Firstly, I think we should give you like a whoop whoop for the sports beach. This place is amazing.
I don't feel like I deserve that myself, but
you see,
it was a huge team of people who put on this fabulous event, and that's a great place to start, by the way.
Yeah.
You were here last year.
Yeah.
You're here again this year. Mm-hmm. Give me your first impressions. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I mean, last year we knew you had something special, right? There was a magic in the fact that you had athletes with creators, with executives, just milling around, talking. It felt very natural. It didn't feel like one of those places where it was like, book a time and a space and have a 15-minute conversation and move over. It just felt authentic, and I was really impressed. And so coming back this year, you're always like, when the bar's set quite high, you know, you're like, how's he going to beat it?
Right.
Obviously, I knew you would. And we walked in, and it just feels elevated. It feels like these are very important conversations when you're thinking about creativity and advertising and partnerships, that intersection, like you said, with sports and talent. And, one of the interesting things about a space like this is I think you start to shift the conversation of what media, marketing, and advertising really looks like. Mm-hmm. And you take it away from the traditional, and then you put it straight into the space of experimental and innovative, but also I think quite different. So space looks sick. There are so many people here. If you just look over my shoulder, it's busy, it's beautiful. And now I feel quite excited because I've got like a pass, so I can come back in.
Yes, so, you can come back. Yeah. You can play pickleball. You can play basketball. Later on today, we're going to have a flag football tournament. Yeah, you're welcome to. Maybe
observe.
Oh,
I think.
Well, you can do that too.
I'm known for lots of things, Damien, but my athletic ability is possibly not one of them.
Well, sporting events need to have good fans and spectators. So that's a
I'm
role to play. It's an
I'm
important
a very good spectator.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for being here and for the compliments. We just. Stagwell and all the teams and the companies that were part of this wanted to put on something that would help Cannes feel a little bit different and to provide a space for a different story to be told. Mm-hmm. And truly, athletes have a different story to tell. They often don't get a chance to tell it through their own voices. Mm-hmm. Typically, some version of a journalist is telling that story, so it's good for them to have a moment to do it on their own. But I did mention journalists, and it just so happens that you work with one of the most foremost publishers on planet Earth, telling the news of America and many other places around the world. Yeah. Why don't you give us a little bit about the Washington Post, what it's up to today, and then we'll talk about what it's up to tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And again, actually, the coalition here is really clear as well, like the Stagwell coalition, but the way you're working with your partners. Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing as we're just generally thinking about our industry at the moment.
100%.
Some of the biggest trends that we're going to be up against, some of the biggest opportunities, I think we're going to be better tackling in coalitions.
Absolutely.
Than we are as isolated.
We couldn't do Sport Beach without our Stagwell
totally.
parent company and the partner organizations. Impossible.
Totally. So, the Washington Post is a renowned global news publisher. We have been creating, writing, distributing critical journalism for centuries. I think it's a really important piece of society, of democracy, to be honest, to have quality, trusted journalism.
The fourth estate.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's interesting. I've been doing this for like a couple of decades, and I've always been in this space because of the journalism, because of the journalists. I have the privilege of working with 1,000 uber talented, smart people that have a level of commitment and integrity to their work that is unmatched in a way. Yeah. And so to get to be part of that and to have the privilege to get to think about the future of that business and how to build healthy businesses around it, I love it. That's why I get up in the morning. It totally drives me. I think it's really interesting though when you say sort of a news company, because one of the things that we talk about all the time is that news is not this like monolithic category, right?
Interesting.
News is
it used to
lots
be.
and lots of different
At least
things.
it seemed like it used to be.
I think a lot of people still think of it as like a big thing, right?
Yeah.
The news encompasses everything. But I say that because news for us is sport, it's film, it's culture, it's fashion.
Oh,
yes,
that's true.
it's like
It's true.
geopolitics, it's elections, it's campaigns, it's business, it's tech, it's sort of everything, right?
That's
so
true.
like when you say the news category, I think you're talking about quite specific things.
That's
and
so
it's
interesting.
a nice lens when you're here in sports speech and you're like, why is the Washington Post at sports speech? Because I think ultimately we have some of the world's best sports writers.
No question about that.
Yeah. But there's that idea that there's just much more to news than I sort of meets the eye.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, who I watch almost religiously every night on PTI, on ESPN, these gentlemen started their career as Washington Post journalists,
Yeah.
dating back 30, 40 years. And so your history in sport is like unblemished.
Yeah.
But yet people think about news as something different than that.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time when news meant just what the one person said to you on the evening news at 5 o'clock.
Right.
Because there was 3 networks and
Yeah.
you watched one of the 3.
Yeah.
But now it's really diffuse. The news
Yeah.
comes from so many sources, and sometimes it's not always true. How do you guys navigate being a news outlet and struggling with people not believing the facts that you invest millions
Yeah.
to uncover and bring to the world?
I think there's always going to be a segment of the population that doesn't align with the mission and the truth of the Washington Post. And, at some point you realize that that's not your audience and that you have to concentrate on your audience. I think what was really interesting that you said was that, back in the day or perhaps the relationship with news and audiences was quite sort of didactic. It was one way you sat, you watched the news, you heard the headlines.
That's
or
right.
You read the paper. And like, there's an element of discovery in that, but it's sort of a one-way relationship where we were telling our audiences what we had sort of thought or what the editorial team thought were the most important headlines and stories of the day. And what we're seeing as biggest shift is that relationship is changing, right? And audiences expect a way more dynamic relationship. They want to be able to talk to our journalists, ask them questions, interact with the content, comment, come to events. And so, again, what I think one of the most interesting trends that we're seeing is that news can't be a static thing, right? It has to live and it has to be able to, again, reach new audiences in a much more collaborative, engaging way.
That's really, really smart. It helps me reframe how I think about news. I can remember my grandfather, they would speak about truisms and you'd ask them where they heard it. And they're like, well, it was in the news.
Yeah.
Or like it was in the dictionary. Like it was
Right.
as honest and true as a dictionary.
Yeah.
And now, like, what is a dictionary
Yeah.
even? And the news
Yeah.
has often been like mired in that same sort of
Yeah.
ambiguity, thanks to the
I
last
mean,
10 years or so. But
having a trusted news brand
Yeah.
is the foundation of what we do. It is fundamental to our
Absolutely.
success. And again, that's why, from an editorial perspective, from a newsroom perspective, the independence, that editorial integrity, the way that we A, structure the newsroom, but B, actually work within the newsroom with managing editors, making sure, again, that they're supporting reporters. Like for us, making sure or ensuring that our brand is a trusted brand is paramount.
Yeah.
Otherwise, once you start to lose that trust, I think, that's, again, it's a scary thought. These aren't like little inconsequential things. These are absolutely massive. Like the Washington Post needs to be front and center in the conversation, especially in a year like this year.
in an election year, for sure.
But it's not just an election year in the US, it's an election year around the world. You've
Now,
got
that's an interesting point. Yeah.
50 elections going on. I think it's something like 4 billion people voting this
Wow.
year. It's the largest demonstration of democracy in history this year.
This year. Okay, so that is a fun fact that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So how do you, at the end of the day, you all aren't delivering as many newspapers to someone's doorstep
Yeah.
as you once did.
Yeah.
But you guys are still a viable, healthy, thriving
Yeah.
entity. Talk to me about how brands can engage with the Washington
Yeah.
Post in a way that benefits them, but then also
Yeah.
helps the Post continue to do the hard
Totally.
work you have to do.
Totally. So we've been thinking about this a lot of late, right? as an industry, again, on the cusp of another momentous change, right? You mentioned print, and then sort of print went to the digital, the internet shifted our entire industry, and then there was sort of the role that social played in thinking about distribution and audiences. And to be honest, we're sitting on the cusp of another massive shift, which is the role that AI is going to play in our industry. Now, there is like a lot of operational efficiencies that we're like hungry for and we're already using, but you also have to, again, like really think about the role that AI could have on trust and on trust with specific audiences. So it's really important that we spend time thinking about this and get it right, because again, I said this is a big moment of change. So the thought that I keep coming back to, and I can say this about the way we think about our content and our monetization and our business, but also about the way that we work with brands, which is that one size doesn't fit all.
No.
Right? This idea that like one form of content, one topic, one theme, one distribution, one subscription model, or one way of advertising with us works is antiquated, and we have to move again to this idea of really understanding what it is that our partners and our brands want to do with us, and then building the right programs with them. And again, it's not just programs, right? It's not just about alignment with our edit, custom content, helping them tell their stories. It's also about it's not just I know, look, I've lost my train of thought. I was like really in it there. It's day 75 of Cannes.
Yes, exactly.
Lost my brain.
75th hour for sure.
But I guess what I was going to say was that the way that they work with us also has to be like nuanced, right?
Totally.
Some people just want to buy us programmatically. Others want a really intentional, deep relationship, grounded in research, thinking about how we can build coalitions for partners. And so I just, again, this like one size fits all. We need to move on from that. And we need to do things very intentionally.
100%. You're in a very unique position. You get a chance to work with brands. You then have a team of people scattered around the globe, finding stories, making sure they're accurate, and then bringing them back to those of us who are in the comforts of our home. It's a very interesting time for you all to exist, and an important one, because as democracy is on the ballot, as you mentioned, across the globe, the place you get your news can really impact how you see the world.
Yeah.
So how are you all predicting what's going to happen in this big election season?
Oh, I do no predictions.
I was hoping to get an answer.
I do no predictions.
Somebody tell me.
It would also be like the worst prediction of all time. I know, maybe not the worst, but like, no. That's not my role in this, right? My role in that,
I love that answer, by the way. That's not my role in this.
That's not my role in this. That's not what
our job is not to do that.
About. People want to talk to me about ways that they can support our business, our news, our journalists in a moment that they also know that matters. I have been so encouraged by the way that people are talking to us this year, which is like, how can we work with you better? What more could we be doing? Tell us about areas that you want to expand and invest. We've just announced that we're building out a third newsroom concentrating on service journalism and social, and everyone's jammed about that.
Because, that's amazing.
I reckon every brand in this room has had to really think about their strategy and their operations and their talent to reach younger generations.
Yes.
That is just what we are doing for the news industry.
Right. That's amazing.
I think there's lots of exciting things, and the right partners are gravitating towards doing something different. They're gravitating towards doing something important and being part of an organization that has a really important mission.
That's outstanding. I just want to say that we all appreciate the work you all do. We appreciate you putting it in formats that we can consume. As you know, I've got small kids. I don't have time to sit and read a newspaper like my grandfather might have.
I feel like that's a lovely weekend activity. I'm like a...
Where?
Like,
when?
Well, actually, that's right. That's probably when I'm actually with the kids.
Yeah, exactly,
so,
exactly.
It's a lovely weekend activity in this fantasy world where I wake up, read the paper,
drink my cup of coffee on the deck. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, my 7-year-old twins don't really vibe with that, like pretend image that I'm making up.
But the podcast solves that for me. I can get 30 minutes of news that's really impactful, and I'm driving back home from dropping them off. And so you guys have found creative ways to allow the modern consumer, the busy moms and dads, and even younger people to be able to consume information in a way that is natural, including TikTok. Like, you guys have a thriving TikTok team.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked it out, definitely look at the Washington Post TikTok.
Yeah, it's Washington Post Universe. It's our team of, again, amazing journalists that are thinking about vertical video storytelling around news. They launched it on TikTok a few years ago. It has over 2 million followers. We're now growing massively across all social channels, including YouTube Shorts. Fastest growing audience on YouTube Shorts.
Really?
Super interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like, again, I think you're right. And actually, by the way, Carmela Boykin,
Carmela's
who is
amazing.
a superstar, she's here with us, as is Martine Powers, one of our top audio journalists. She did a series last year called The Empty Graves of Comrade Bishop. It's one of the best pieces of audio journalism I've ever heard. It won a Peabody.
Wow.
So like, we're talking about quality content,
stuff.
quality
In
journalism.
formats that people can consume
with
in the
great
modern era
talent.
with great talent.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well-
thank you for my support, my friend.
No,
It's-
absolutely.
We appreciate it. We really
Well,
do.
you know, this has been a wonderful conversation. We could talk all day, but we
Yeah.
don't have all day, as it turns out. Thank you for being here,
Thank you for
Johanna.
having me.
It's been a pleasure, and much love to the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. That's it for now. But be sure to follow Stagwell and 72 and Sunny across socials to catch up
And the
on-
Washington Post.
And the Washington
Subscribe
Post.
to the Washington
Subscribe to
Post.
the Washington Post. And we'll see you later on, hopefully, here at Sport Beach. And if not, we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you.